In today's video, we're going to be diving into the upcoming pattern, taking a look at a lot of storminess overall, a lot of cooler air, a lot of warmer air. We've been talking about this for a few days, but it is going to be back and forth a little bit. We will see these kind of repetitive Gulf flow patterns that are going to bring in hot, humid air. Very similar to what we've experienced along the East Coast the last few days. We're going to see that quite a bit. Might be a little bit more widespread too, for those of you that haven't experienced a lot of warmth yet. But there is still some Arctic invasions that are working their way in, and it's of course important to note that this is not going to bring frigid conditions. I'm still getting people confused in the comments. It is just an Arctic air mass that is moving down, and it is moving from the Arctic. It is blasting in. This is bringing more cold air than what you would typically expect with a typical cold front, but it isn't going to be 32 degrees or anything crazy like that. It's just going to be significantly cold for this time of year. Let's dive into things. We're taking a look at the past 14 days, and we talked about this, I think, yesterday, but this area has been warming actually over the last 5, 6, 7 days. So this is actually trending up, this eastern pocket. This inland pocket, excuse me, has been kind of trending down a little bit, or at least maybe we would call it just staying put for now. There is some warmer air on the way that we're going to see later on in the video. Of course, this area out west has just been purely warm, kind of just staying put, but there could be some cooling trends if we do start to see a negative PNA, where you guys will get a little bit of relief from the pretty intense heat that you guys have dealt with for a few weeks now. Let's take a look at the upcoming temperatures, and we can see that for the overnight hours last night, we were cooler along the east, and really looking at it here, once we reach the high temperatures, we do see these areas are having a quite warm day, a little closer to normal here the further east you go, but for these Midwest and Plains areas, we are pretty far above normal. Cooler than normal in the South Central, and again, still very hot compared to normal there in the West. There is, of course, still a lot of Arctic air to work with up here in Canada, so we'll have to see if any of this moves in. By Thursday, it's pretty clear that some of the upper Midwest, Great Lakes, and Northeast are going to be dealing with some of that Arctic air. It has trouble really working its way in until we reach about Sunday the 15th, where we are seeing some of that work its way into the east. Meanwhile, the west has not even cooled down a bit. They do see some relief come in as we approach the 20th here, as you can see, especially along that kind of northwest corridor, as well as the southwest of Canada. And really, by this point, again, we're seeing pretty widespread, at least normal conditions in the east, if not a little warmer than normal, and even in these more northern territories, much warmer than normal as we're reaching the 20th time frame. But as we reach towards the 20th through 25th, it's clear that we get another Arctic air mass kind of moving in. This one a little less potent, even when considering the time of year, so maybe a little bit closer to what you'd expect from a standard cold front there, and then back to much warmer than normal there in the west. Keep in mind that all of this little change at the end happens within, beyond the 10-day mark. We consider that the long range, and there is a lot of reason to believe that this could be subject to change. So that's the only good news there, is we might not see this happen. It is at the very end of the model run, which is, if you're not hoping for this to happen, kind of the best place for it to be. You would way rather that than it be way in the long range. Now, as we take a look at some of our upcoming storminess here, we can see that today is a little bit quieter than what we've been dealing with recently. There is some isolated and scattered about thunderstorms in this deeper south, kind of southeast area, also along the Rockies into the plains, and a little bit of activity there in eastern Canada as well as the northeastern United States. As we move towards tomorrow, we do start to see a little bit more activity here across areas of the plains into some of like the lower Midwest here. Also the southeast seeing a pretty hefty pocket of thunderstorms. And again, this Rockies area into the northern plains and upper Midwest, still not crazy active. Friday the 13th, though, does get a little freaky, and we do see a lot of thunderstorm activity here in the east. And yeah, it's Friday the 13th, really weird. We do see some thunderstorms really sparking up across all of the Midwest, Great Lakes, eastern states. So yeah, things really take a turn here for that date. We do see as we work our way towards Saturday, the 14th, it's a lot of the same. Sunday, the 15th, just lots of storminess in the east, and also for the plains and Midwest. Monday, the 16th, a little bit died down maybe, but still you can see some pockets of a little bit more consistent precipitation that's occurring, mostly Virginia, North Carolina, Texas, Louisiana. We see some pockets there. That's just in about 5-6 days from now. Tuesday, the 17th, we're getting a lot more isolated with it. The lighter shades are going to be where the model is picking up on slimmer chances of precipitation, probably a little bit more isolated, as we mentioned. The darker greens are going to be your more widespread activity, is a good way to look at it. Working our way towards Wednesday, the 18th, pretty similar. Thursday, the 19th, we're actually slowing down, as you can see, just really, really inactive by that point. But Friday the 20th here, something interesting happens. And this is right around the 9-10 day mark. So we're on the fence of being in the long range here. But we do see a 998 millibar low pressure center there for South Dakota. Clearly a little bit of a warm front trying to get going. So some showery, rainy activity there. We'll have to see if we can get a dragging cold front underneath that, because that would be probably an intense one, but we really don't. So we actually get pretty spared there from this one, because that is a hefty low. Now south of the Hudson Bay, as you can see there, by Sunday the 22nd. A little bit of dragging activity into the plains, Midwest, Great Lakes area there, but that could have been a whole lot worse. We're in the long range now, so take it with a grain of salt. We kind of continue to see storminess up there in the north, with some in the southeast here, but it is relatively marginal. We do see Tuesday the 24th. This model's indicating that stuff could be really popping up. We're really in the long range by this point. And then we start to get active along the southeast and overall the eastern states again as we're approaching the end of June. But that is in the very, very extended range. So any little change, which there certainly will be some, would really impact the placement, timing, intensity, all of that stuff. So we can see some pretty big changes as we approach the 20th time frame, but it gives us a good idea of what this model is thinking is possible. Total precipitation is a little less elevated. It's a little bit more consistently average to above average in all of these areas, but we're seeing a little bit less of the very, very, very high amounts. When we look at the anomalies, it reflects that we're very close to normal pretty much everywhere east of the Rockies. There's a couple pockets like Texas up into Oklahoma, Kansas, Missouri, and Arkansas where we're pretty far above average, but a lot of these areas are within a reasonable range of what's typical. So pretty standard stuff. We are slowing down a little bit, but still average to slightly above average. So it's not going to be, inactive to say the least, but it's definitely not going to be explosively active like what we've seen. Looking at the Storm Prediction Center outlooks, this is for day 1 on Wednesday, June 11th. Today, lighter greens are going to be your general thunderstorm risk area where we expect general thunderstorms, as the name suggests. But we do not expect severe weather in these areas. But the problem is that these are really, really, really hard to make, really hard to predict, and we can still see some dangerous weather, even some severe weather outside of the areas that are expecting it. So heed every watch, warning, and advisory. We have 3 darker green areas there. That's going to be your level 1 marginal risk for areas in the Northwest, Texas, the Deep South. That is where we expect isolated severe weather to occur. And then we have a little slight risk there for southern Texas, and that is going to be where we expect scattered about severe weather in that yellow region. Moving towards tomorrow, we see the large general thunderstorm risk area, the 2 marginal risks again, so pretty standard. And then it looks like for Friday the 13th, we do pick up a little bit again. That's when that activity really becomes widespread, and you can see most of the central and eastern states are just at least in a general thunderstorm risk, because it's hard to rule anybody out really. And then we have a large marginal risk east of the Rockies, and even a pretty large slight risk. So this could be a bigger severe weather day to watch for Friday the 13th. With all that being said, be sure to subscribe. We upload every single day. You can even hit the bell icon for daily notifications when we upload, so you never miss one. Be sure to like the video if you did enjoy it, leave a comment down below, and I'll see you guys in the next video.